Welcome back to the Energy Fix podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about something a lot of people feel this low key stress about, but don't necessarily know what to do with that. And it is EMFs or electromagnetic fields, 5G, and this wireless soup that we are living in each and every single day. And I want to name something right up front. Because most parents, we're going to be talking about kids today too, and most parents, they aren't ignoring this because they don't care. They're not ignoring it for themselves or their kids or their families. They're ignoring it because they're already maxed out. They're overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff going on in life, and they may not know what to do with the knowledge that they're gaining. But we're going to be talking about that today. My guest today is Beverly Jensen. She is a longtime natural medicine practitioner and health educator who now focuses on creating awareness around the health impacts of electromagnetic radiation from wireless, especially for children. She's also big on practical, low-cost steps like moving your router or turning it off at night and making just simple shifts that aren't going to require a lot of investment. And this is why I'm so excited to have this conversation, because a lot of times it's about these big, expensive contraptions that we would need to invest in, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Once we cover the basics, we're going to really dive deeper into the energetic side, and I can't wait to hear what Beverly has to say. All right, Beverly, we're going to get into this conversation. Let's dive in. How are you today? Good. Thank you so much for being here. Well, to kick this episode off, I always love to ask my guests one question, and that is there a word or a phrase that you're really embodying right now in this season of your life?
This season of my life. Uh, that's more than today, isn't it? Yeah, I think serenity would be my word for this time in my life and these days. The world needs um, more peace, and I think that comes out of a sense of serenity and tranquility. So,
And so, Beverly, the follow-up question to that then is, serenity is so beautiful, but when the world feels like it's going out of control and when life feels so crazy, what have you been doing to try to practice more serenity in your life to stay connected?
um, I'm actually doing much more breath work these days, and learning better ways of breathing. So that helps a lot. I'm making an extra effort to get away from this computer at least twice a day, and not only go for a walk. And then when we walk, we're usually in shoes that actually keep us off of the grounding power of the earth. So after the walk, I sit in the garden and take the shoes off just to get the negative ions of the earth on my feet.
Yeah, I love that. And so you can tell that you're very passionate about this. I mean, you're already doing it, you implement it into your everyday. So tell us a little bit about your journey, Beverly. Why are you so passionate about this topic, and why are you so passionate about bringing this into your work?
Um, why? I think it's because there's so much um, deliberate ignorance that the telecom industry has made a real effort to keep us uninformed on the effects of the technology, and it's harming us, and especially the children. I actually have had a lifelong area of this. Anyway, I grew up with my dad working as an engineer for the U.S. Army Signal Corps, and he was developing satellite communication. So he was among the pioneers creating this technology. And, most fathers have a workshop with saws and hammers and wrenches. And the tools in my dad's workshop was a Geiger counter and an oscilloscope. He was measuring radiation. And whenever I wanted to go into his workshop, he would warn me. I would hear this speech every time, and I never forgot it, that if a device sends radio signals and receives radio signals, it's dangerous. Keep back and turn it off when you can. So that was something I've never forgotten. And in 1999, I bought the family's first cell phone because my 19-year-old daughter was commuting on the Washington, D.C. Beltway, and I wanted her to have some form of communication if possible. So I bought her this cell phone. She was very excited about it. I said, I actually bought this for me. And you need to never put it against your head. Use speakerphone. Never wear it against your body. And keep conversations short. So I remembered that in 1999. I did not remember it 20 years later when I'm working on a book sitting next to a router 6 feet away. And I was working 8-10 hours a day, 6 days a week for 3 months. And I have to add that that was in Mexico. If I'd been sitting by a router in the United States, it wouldn't have taken me 3 months to feel this because they're 10 times more powerful in the U.S. But anyway, after 3 months, I went to visit another daughter in Washington, D.C. And it was now April, and it's warm, and my arms are without covers. I'm walking down the street, and in a city, the cell towers are hidden in architecture, so you don't see them most of the time. And as I walk down the street, my arms begin to itch, and then I keep walking, they begin to burn. Finally, I must have been very close to the cell tower because my skin was crawling. And these are classic symptoms of non-ionizing radiation. And I thought, oh, this was the first, real clue that I had just cooked myself by sitting next to the router for 3 months. So, yeah, there were other incidents in Washington during that visit, but that was the first that said I've become sensitive to this radiation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
And I have had the Medicine Bowl, the Women's Medicine Bowl website since 2003. And it was all about natural treatments and natural remedies and how to take care of ourselves, and looking at medical systems outside of the Western model of allopathic medicine. So after this, in 2019, I decided this was far more urgent, that we needed to have much more awareness and discussion on this wireless technology that we're all bathed in right now.
Yeah. I know I've said this story a while ago on a previous podcast, but this feels very appropriate. I remember when I used to work in physical therapy full time, I used to walk around with my cell phone in my pants pocket, in the back of my pants pocket. And I remember after that was years I was doing that. And I remember after a certain amount of time, I developed this ache in my hip that I couldn't understand where it was coming from. It didn't matter what I would do exercise wise or what I was doing to take care of my body inflammation wise. Nothing was taking care of this ache. And then when I stopped working in that environment and I wasn't having my phone on me all the time, Beverly, you know what happened?
It stopped.
The ache started going away. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a huge indicator. I mean, now that was, at that point, I was already getting quite aware of EMFs, but that was a huge indicator that I never even put two and two together, that could have possibly been the cause of my discomfort.
Yeah, you're very fortunate it didn't end up with ovarian cancer or infertility.
Yeah.
And now there's been among the 10 to 14-year-olds, there's been a 500% increase in colorectal cancers. They never had cancer before. This group never had it. The colorectal cancer was something that much older people occasionally got. 500% increase in this cancer. And I said, as soon as I read that, I said, well, that's because of where they're carrying their cell phones. But then there was a medical conference in Chile, and the scientists from Kaiser Permanente in Oakland went to that conference, and he said, well, folks, just look at where they're carrying their cell phones. So, when we begin to have all these extraordinary increases in diseases, we need to look at what's changed in our environment during the years in which this has happened. And there's just so much of that. I mean, infertility is another serious consequence. I have a fantasy of creating a wall of butt shots with everybody, particularly women, carrying their cell phone in their back pocket. I guess it's real convenient. I guess I would think it wouldn't be so comfortable just sitting on it. But anyway, it's very common. It's ubiquitous everywhere. No matter what country I'm in, the women are carrying their cell phones in their butt pocket. And it's so destructive. That's right next to the ovaries. There haven't been that many studies on women's reproduction consequences, but there's been 200 studies, more than that now, on the effects on the sperm, because men are easier to study, and because the sperm recycles about every 4 days. But women, females, are born with all of the eggs they're ever going to have. This is your only chance, gals. The guys get a new supply every 4 days, so they're easier to study, and because it's external to the body, it's much also easier to study. But it's all the studies have shown the consequence in fertility. Well, it's essentially that it's motility. The sperms, they can't move as well as they would, and they also are some deforms, some chromosome damage.
Yeah. Well, let's even take it just a step back a little bit more, because I want to dive into this, and I want to dive into some of these consequences, quote unquote consequences that could come out of too much exposure. Let's first talk about when you say EMF or this radiation that is in our environment. What are we actually talking about in a typical home, number one? And number two, why is it so important to really pay attention to this from a health perspective?
Well, the first part of the question is, in the home, since we now have smart meters, unless you succeeded in getting your local company to not put in a smart meter, those smart meters are collecting data from every chip in the house. Thousands of times a second. So it's that pulsing that causes so much damage too. Now, where's the chips? The Pew Research Center, PEW, they monitor a lot of this, and the last report I saw was that the average American home has 23 devices, appliances in the house that are that have chips in them that are emitting signals to the smart meter, which means your refrigerator, your toaster, your vacuum cleaner. I mean, they've even put a chip into the barbecue grill in the backyard. Why we would need this is incomprehensible, but it's the cool thing to do now, to put a chip in your product, and there's nobody minding the gate. Nobody's looking at the consequence to the consumer from. I mean, there's the chip in the new Barbie who talks, and that means your children, your daughters probably is playing with a wireless device in her doll collection. And I mean, I've heard, it's interesting on these podcasts, you pick up new information. I heard from a very reliable source that there's now a chip in some of the tampons, which is incomprehensible. Why we would ever want such a thing, or a chip in diapers. What is that doing? Notifying the parents that the baby needs a diaper change? It's a lot of this is just plain stupid. There's no intelligence to it at all, but it's harmful. So let's talk about what are the harms. The regulatory, well, let's just say the FCC and the European equivalent, they're only looking at the effects of heating the body, which is what the science was about 35 years ago. But since then, there's been a whole lot of research, thousands of studies showing that the effects on our bodies is far, far more than the heating. And this brings me to the second point in this this campaign I'm waging to inform moms of the safe use of technology with children, is that we are electrical beings. I mean, every cell in our body is being directed by electrical impulses from the heart and the brain, and these man-made frequencies are interfering with that and causing a whole lot of diseases. Where to start? Actually, the telecom industry has known all along that this was a problem. They've been warning their investors of the legal impacts of their products, the health benefits, the health not benefits, health harm from the technology. They warn their investors. The insurance industry bailed in 2015. Lloyd's of London said, we will not, and they're the underwriter for the whole industry, and they said, we will not cover any claims related to wireless technology that are health claims. So that the whole industry is not covering this. But it was the Bio Initiative organization that published in 2012. This is actually organized by the former Microsoft vice president in Canada. He called together scientists and physicians to report on what they were finding. This is in 2012. And the cases of autism among children have gone way up. some of the other problems with the kids are depression. This is especially with the teenagers, and especially it seems to affect the girls, young girls. But leukemia is another factor. Anxiety, bipolar disorder among youth is up over 10,000% between 1990 and 2015. I mean, that's old information. That's just still, that was 11 years ago, 2015. But insomnia is something that's affecting all ages, the whole population. Sleep disorders, and the list goes on.
Yeah.
I've been most concerned right now about the children because their brains are just developing, the nervous system is just developing, and when parents just are not being informed, are not being made aware of the effects of these screens on the children. The American Pediatrics Association recommends that in the first 2 years, children have no screens, none at all. And between ages 3 and 5, they could have 1 hour a day, but with an adult sitting with them and sort of interpreting what they're seeing, because they don't really understand at that age what it is they're watching. So it would have to be quite an interesting educational program, but anyway, that should be with an adult. And so they have the technology now to understand what's the effects in the brain when this has not been the case for the child. So they found between ages 4 and 6 that if the child in the first 2 years had been on screens, and the telecom industry calls these shut-up toys, to get them to be quiet, entertain them, and keep them out of your hair for a few minutes. So if the scientists have found that if the child in the first 2 years was on screens like I don't know what the number was, but we'll say two hours a day between ages 4 and 6, their cognitive development as far as intellect and word language development was delayed, was less. And you know, I tell young women, I said, there's no do-over for the kids. This is the time in which they are developing, and if they miss that window for any reason, there's no makeups, there's no do-overs. there's not a come back for after class and we'll do it again. You know, this is the one and only time those children have got. So yeah, between ages 4 and 6, they found that if they had heavy screen use in the first 2 years, that it affect that area of the brain, which was a cognitive development, social development, learning social cues, all of that was impacted. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, for our kids, I mean, they're living in this tech-heavy world. Everything about the schooling that they're doing is so tech forward, which can be a blessing, but also an exposure. And you know, I'll get on my soapbox for 1 second here. It also then pulls them away from nature connection and getting out and using sunshine, fresh air, and nature to detoxify their body, to encourage them to take their shoes off and get their feet into the ground so that they are grounding and reversing some of these effects that they're having from this EMF exposure. And so, yeah, like, I think more than anything, really safeguarding our kids is so darn important right now.
Yes, And I think when at the schools, we need to get the school board on board to have the devices in the school rooms wired. I mean, I remember way back 20 years ago, when the new superintendent of the Los Angeles School District, which is the second largest school district in the country, went into the classroom. He found with a meter, he found that the level of radiation was equivalent of a low-level microwave oven. And so he wired the whole district. And that needs to happen in the schools. I mean, now the school districts and in some states, the whole state is creating a mandate that the cell phones be put away, bell to bell, from the time the children enter the classroom till to the last bell of the day. There's no cell phones to be used in the classroom. What's interesting is they put it on silent and put it in their backpack down there by their feet. That doesn't stop the radiation. It's like, okay, well, you're missing a good part of the problem here. Yes, all the interference from notifications and calls, etc., affects the learning, but the radiation, and I mean, when you put an iPhone on, when you turn an iPhone off, it still connects to the tower. So you're not eliminating the radiation from that. And half of us own iPhones, so they're missing part of it there. But it's going to be the parents who take charge here. And the county I was living in Virginia, in Loudoun County, two women who are PhDs in the health field, they sort of barnstormed the district, and there will be no more cell towers near the schools, and total control over the wireless in the Loudoun County schools in Virginia. I was elated to read this. Yeah. You know, and my whole campaign now is to reach moms, to reach women, because a number of things. I've found in going into homes, unless the husband is already suffering from and suspects that it is being caused by the radiation, it's always the mom who calls me, and most of the time the husbands are not, they're reticent, they're not very interested, and not very supportive. I mean, they will go along but moms will take charge of this for the sake of the children. And what's interesting is that in protecting the kids by reducing the exposures, and we need to talk more about how we do that, but by protecting the kids by reducing the exposure, she's also protecting herself and the partner. So everybody wins. But it would be, so forever women have made the family's health decisions, and it's going to be women who do this. And we've waited for 15 years for the FCC to get up to date, and there've been 2 court cases and 1 government order for them to go back and look at the data, the science, and update their standards, and they don't do it. So it's going to be up to consumers, and it's going to be the women who take this charge. So my goal is to get 10 million moms, because when we reach 3% of the population and engage 3% of the population in changing their beliefs and their behaviors, then there's a cultural shift and laws change. And we cannot wait. there's no indication that the regulatory agencies are going to update this or improve it. So it's going to be up to the public and in protecting the kids in the home. It's going to be moms. So
Yeah.
that's my goal.
Yeah. Well, Beverly, let's talk about some of these things that we can start doing that moms, anybody really, right? But that these moms can start doing to not only protect themselves and their partners, but also their children and their families. What can we do?
The first thing is to get the router out of the living room. And every home I've gone into, the router sits right next to the television. And it is one of the most powerful sources of radiation in the house. And it should be put into the least used room, which could be the garage, but it sure cannot be a bedroom. But maybe the utility room, and run an Ethernet cord across the house, put rugs over it so people don't trip on it. I do this whenever I'm renting and living in a new place. You throw a rug over the Ethernet cord. And if you own the property, you need to look into wiring the house, because that would, if you're going to be there long term, you need to make this a more complete and a more permanent solution. But if you're renting, or if it's a temporary situation, right now I'm renting here in Mexico, and I've got the router stuck into a fireplace, which has never been used. And so I thought, this is just the perfect place to hide the router, because it's all cement around it, and much of the world, housing construction is made of cement, which is a very good blocking agent for the Wi-Fi from your neighbors and from outside. So put the router out of the living room, and then wrap it in, this is the second step, wrap it up, shield it. And the easiest, cheapest, quickest way to do this is get a roll of aluminum screening from the hardware store. It's about $10. Make sure it's real aluminum, because most of the rolls will be plastic looking like screen. But this is what you do to replace the screen doors on the house or the screen windows. So it's you get a whole roll of it. You'll have enough for all your neighbors also. So, and you'll want to share it with the neighbors, because often it's their routers beaming into your house also. But anyway, take the screening material, wrap it 2 or 3 times around the router, then you can just staple the sides of it, leave the back open, or wherever the cord, the Ethernet cord would be inserted. Leave that so you can get a cord through there. But I have reduced the radiation, this was in a house of the families in the North Seattle, and I went back to visit, and in the apartment downstairs, she'd gotten a new router. Until I did this, for about 10 days, I was wearing shielding material around the house. The radiation levels were so high upstairs. When we got that aluminum screening wrapped around the router, and we reduced the radiation by 97%. Yeah, it was like 295,000 microwatts per microwatts per square meter. That's how it's measured. 297,000. We reduced it to practically nothing, and still wrapped up with 3 layers of aluminum screening, there was still enough frequencies that upstairs the cell phones worked, and the laptops still worked, but I was no longer having to wrap myself up.
Wow.
In the house. Yeah. So it costs $10 to get that aluminum screening, and like I said, truly you can share it with family and neighbors.
Wow. What about our cell phones? What can we do with our cell phones?
Okay. Cell phones. one family member is on his phone all the time watching YouTube stuff. So I've measured this. If you're at home or in the office and your phone is connected to a Wi-Fi, keep it on airplane mode, and you'll be able to get phone calls and text messages and make calls, and you'll reduce your radiation exposure by 95%.
Wow.
You just have to be in a place where your phone is connected to Wi-Fi. And so for this particular family member, they bought this sort of a heavy tube construction thing that clipped onto a counter, and then it held the phone so he could lift it up so his face. I wear my glove here for my mouse. This is a shielding glove. So it lifts up the phone so he's not down like this all the time looking at the phone. Lifts it up, saves his neck, and then he doesn't have to have it in his hand either. So it's terrific.
Wow.
But if you're going to leave the house or the office and you're going to need your phone with you, then you got to remember to put the airplane mode off again. But yeah, most of the time we stay in one place, and that's how you can reduce the radiation. When you've got a family with everybody having cell phones, this requires a family conference, and if you've got teenagers, I really recommend watching together the documentary Generation Zapped or the Netflix film The Social Media Dilemma. In that last one, the social media dilemma, every expert they talked to, their first advice was to turn off notifications. It just keeps you completely absorbed into the virtual world. You're not truly with the people who are around you. You're not engaged with what's going on around you. You're never going to hear the birds sing because you're not paying any attention. So they all said turn off the notifications. So as a family, watch one of these documentaries to begin the discussion of how and why you need to manage where and how you're going to use these phones and all these devices. And go back to the router, put a timer on it so that an hour before bedtime for the house, it turns off. And everybody should be off all of this before an hour before bedtime. And but I think it's very useful to establish a communication center in the house, so that when that my daughter does this, when they come home from work, she and her husband put the phones into a basket in this one. It's kind of a coat closet area, but it's the communication center. So nobody's walking around the house with cell phones beaming, and and then you let your friends know that you're not on the phone all the time. It's interesting though. There's been some studies showing that the children are realizing this themselves, and about 83% of them want this complete expectation that you're always available to stop, to get off the devices, and to truly be present with the people that you love who are around you. So there's some serious changes happening.
Yeah.
All good.
Yeah. Well, what happens when people go out and about and they're in these places that are just pumping all of these EMFs into the environment?
That's another problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you can't get
You know,
away from it sometimes, you know?
I know. I mean, as a person who is really sensitive to this, I have to avoid those places,
Yeah.
and I've also, uh, I've got a few, it's interesting, these electrical impulses I say of the EMF is that they can heal us and they can harm us and they can kill us. And I have got a pulsed EMF mat, which in one case saved me from heart seizures on an aircraft. There was Wi-Fi beaming through the whole aircraft, even though everybody was asleep, nobody was using it. And my heart started flipping out all over, and I had this in my carry-on, and yeah, I had to use it twice in an 8-hour flight to calm the heart down, or I would have been DOA, dead on arrival. And I'm looking at the reports now of what's going on in airplanes, and most of the emergencies, health situations that are happening on planes are neurological. But trust me, having a neurologist on board is not going to be of any use.
Yeah.
It's not going to help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm using the PEMF mat. I've got a sorry. I've got a harmonizing card that has been useful for a few years. I'm not sure if that's going to be effective enough for 5G, but truly, I have to just avoid large crowds, and I don't go into malls.
Yeah.
So it's you start to reevaluate whatever environment you're going to put yourself into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and before we got onto this call, before we hit record, one of the things that you had asked me, knowing that I'm into crystal healing and that is a large part of the work that I do, you would ask from a crystal perspective, is there anything that can help with this? And so I'll just put that in here too. One very well-known one is shungite. So shungite is one of my favorites. So what I actually do, and it's funny, I have things literally sitting on my desk right here. I have a big honking piece of, well, this is black tourmaline. Where's my shungite? Because I'm going to say black tourmaline here in a moment. But here I have a shungite tower, or pyramid, I'm sorry, shungite pyramid, that I sit and I put right in front of some of my electrical devices. Because what this can help do is it will bring all those EMFs that come in, it will absorb it, it will neutralize that EMF exposure, those negative energies, and help to calm that down. And there has been different devices that have checked the efficiency of this, and shungite is one of those that has been studied to really come back and show the effectiveness of helping to decrease that exposure. Black tourmaline is another one of those. And so I have a big honking piece of black tourmaline right here in front of my devices as well to help decrease some of that exposure. But one of the other ones that, I mean, there's a bunch of them, but one of the other ones that I love to use is smoky quartz. Because when I wear smoky quartz, that helps my body to detoxify some of these heavy negative energies. You can have it just sitting around you, but it helps to detoxify the body from some of these heavy negative energies as well that you might be picking up. You can wear shungite, you can wear black tourmaline. Fluorite's really great too. Same with some amazonite. Those are going to be really helpful as well with helping to neutralize and just balance out some of the imbalances that your energy body may be showing and affecting. So yeah, from a crystal perspective, those are some of my favorites.
I have that same little pyramid.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to second everything you've said, because we have used those, and they are effective, very effective. There's also some rocks that are sold now
Yeah.
that I'm getting very good reports on of their effectiveness. I'm not sure if that's pink quartz or what, but they are a pink rock, and yeah, they're very helpful. Um, One thing I wanted to say is I think it's important that in this day and age that we reconsider the usefulness of meters, because I think it used to be. I mean, even 3 years ago, it was sort of a nice thing to have. I think it needs to be reconsidered as a necessary household appliance, because even 30 years ago, when there was limited number of sources of EMF in our house, the engineer that I'm working with in the Bay Area, he found that even people who knew what to look for would miss 50% of the sources if they didn't have a meter. And now with chips being put into absolutely everything, and then when you travel, you're going to want to know, where's the router in this bedroom? Underneath the bed, hidden behind the curtain, in the ceiling. What are you exposing yourself to when you're traveling? But I think we need to consider having a meter as a necessary household appliance. It's just not optional anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, this has been oh, go ahead. Please go. Yeah.
I was just going to say, and those that sell for like $100 on Amazon are not going to be effective. I have talked with engineers and looked at their reviews, and I list them. There's only about 4, and it's an investment. They're not cheap, but you could also share it with family members or friends. And in one town, that the woman who's very active in this field had the library get one so you could check it out, which is a great idea. And if I were in the United States, I'd donate one to the library. But that would be a great way to have it available to the public, who don't have the income or the wherewithal to buy their own meter.
Yeah.
The effective ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have any brands that you like, that just off the top of your head, do you know any brands?
The one I use is Safe and Sound Pro 2. It's from Safe Living Technologies in Canada. It's $400. They've got a budget model, but it's not as convenient. It's half that price. But like I said, this can't be considered a luxury anymore, because there's just too many things beaming at us.
Yeah. Well, this has been such an awesome conversation, something that I could sit and talk to you about for so long, because there needs to be more conversations about this regularly, and more conversations in urgency, because of how connected to tech and devices that we are, and how much more it's getting. Yes. How much more exposure we're getting. So, yeah, thank you for talking about all this. Before we find out where people can find you, I want to just find out just a few rapid fire questions for you. I'm so curious about what your quick recommendations would be, or things specifically about you that you like. Okay? All right. Are you ready?
Things about me?
Well, about you in regards to this conversation. Yeah. In regards to the conversation. All right. So, first question. What's one thing that you wish every parent would stop doing with tech right now? In the bedroom, especially, like when they're trying to sleep at night.
Never got to talking about the bedroom. And the bedroom needs to be considered a tech-free sanctuary. No devices in there, no phones on the nightstand. For God's sake, no phones underneath your pillow. Get a battery-operated clock, alarm clock. Read the children the books for story time. Do not depend upon, I call it the bad panda device to tell the kids stories, because the radiation from the bad panda is horrific. They won't be able to sleep. Yeah.
All right, I want to actually ask you a quick question with that, because this is something that's come up before. What is your opinion on tech devices to sleep at night? People will wear the bracelets or the rings or any of that stuff. What is your opinion with that, with some of these tech devices to help track sleep or to track?
It would really depend on the device. I mean, I usually have a scalar energy device near me on the bed, but that's different than something that's monitoring the body. So I would be very careful about that. And I cannot use, and I do beware of Bluetooth. It's becoming more common, and Bluetooth has 7 times the amount of radiation as Wi-Fi. So do not have Bluetooth hearing aids, a Bluetooth in anything that's on your body. The company that manufactures the PEMF mat that I've had for 8 years was going to change their method of connectivity to Bluetooth. I said, well, if you do, I'm out, and I said, I really don't recommend that. And they didn't. I mean, they have it as an option, but it's not a requirement. So, but as far as all the rest of those, do you really need to know all that information that's being told to you by your watch? I was talking to some health coaches about this, and I said, maybe when you're in 30 years, when you're my age, you'll want to know that information. I don't think you need to know it. So be realistic about what's the value of this,
Yeah. All right, rapid fire. Go ahead.
But regarding the bedroom, if you get all the devices out of the bedroom, your sleep's going to be fine. You don't need to monitor it.
Yeah. All right, rapid fire question number 2 and the last one. When you need to reset your system, what is your go-to reset? And what is one of the first things that you notice when you reset?
I've found that when I'm becoming anxious, my fingers start doing the worry bead exercise. Then that's it. And when I go sit at the garden, for at least 30 minutes, I will find that my anxiety levels, even though I mentally have nothing to be anxious about, it's like the nervous system is just queued up due to this that we're exposed to. So I find that when I reset, the worry bead ends.
Yeah. Oh, well. Where can people find you, Beverly? Where can they get into your world and learn more and find your resources?
I've still got the medicine bowl. womensmedicinebowl.com is focusing on the electromagnetic fields, but it's got more of the science and more of the news reports of what's coming out than is in the website that's particularly for moms, because moms and most of us are really overwhelmed in these months and years. These are crazy times. And with the children being sick so much, the moms are also being jeopardized in their jobs. So there's a website just directed towards the kids. It's called U and EMF. And it's a simpler site that just focuses on what to do, why we need to make these changes for the children, and how to do it. Mm-hmm. If you want to dive deeper, go over to the medicine bowl.
And as always, those links will be down in the show notes, so make sure you jump on down there, and not just for yourself, but also to share it out to all of the other parents that you know, to help this become a movement, not just an isolated situation. Right, Beverly?
Yeah. Let's get all the mothers involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any last words that you would like to lay on the hearts of the listeners for today?
I think that these 2 points, this mantra, if we remember this, it's going to change our behavior. That we are electrical beings, and that if any device that sends radio signals and receives radio signals is emitting radiation, and we need to keep it away from our body. Make your access to it as short as you can, and keep it away from kids. I would like to see moms not holding the child and having phone calls, because even though they have that phone away from their head, it's usually right beside the child's head, and that is so harmful for the babies. Sometimes I'm in other countries, I will somehow convey this information to the mothers who have nobody's telling them this. It's a sorrowful situation, and they may look at me like I've just dropped in off the moon, and I have. That's okay. It can be the first time they hear about it. Hopefully, won't be the last. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Beverly, for coming onto the show today and sharing your heart and your wisdom. I appreciate you, and we definitely need to get this conversation out into the world more.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing that. Thanks so much.